This is the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. It's Tuesday, July 16th, 2024 at 5:06 p.m. And we'll start with a roll call of members present. Mike Lawson.
Present.
Carrie LaFleur.
Present.
Linda Escobedo.
Present.
And Keith Bergman present. Mary Hartman and Rich Feely are not able to attend today. And welcome everyone else. Next item is approval of minutes, and I had sent out a draft set of our June 18th meeting minutes in the last week or so. And I wonder if there's a motion to approve.
I move to approve the June 18th minutes as submitted.
Second.
Second, motion by Mike, second by Linda. Is there discussion? All right, so on that motion to approve, we'll do a roll call vote. Mike?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
And Keith? Aye. So those minutes are approved. Thank you. Next is an update on funding for the trust. And since this is our first meeting since the Senate took up the Affordable Homes Act, I just wanted to report in, and I would otherwise call on Rich Feely, but he's not here today. But just to report that the Senate joined the House of Representatives in passing an Affordable Homes Act that did not include a real estate transfer fee for affordable housing. So that was disappointing. Senate Ways and Means had not included in their version. There were a number of amendments that were offered by Senator Mike Barrett and others, which would have restored a transfer fee, either a local option statewide or Concord's own transfer fee or a pilot program, and all of those amendments failed. There was a conference committee appointed, and they have not reported out. The LOHA Coalition is urging that conferees include in its final bill a provision that was in the Senate's version of Section 142, which would establish a housing shortages commission to look at policies and pilot programs to meaningfully address housing shortages in the Commonwealth, including a local option transfer fee as something that would be studied. Don't know if anything will come from that. LOHA's advocacy also requests that the conferees, if they feel that they could, even include a demonstration project in the final version of the budget. So I don't know if anyone on the call has updated information on that, but it was disappointing that after the governor supported a transfer fee, that neither the House or the Senate could follow suit. So that's disappointing. Any comment? Yeah, Stefan.
I was on that last call of the LOHA Coalition, and as you said, everyone was disappointed. I offered that if one possible strategy was to get more towns to submit home rule petitions next time around to beat the drum and let the legislature know this isn't over, that I thought that we could get Concord to lead that charge, convince our neighboring towns to join in and swamp them with requests. We'll see where that goes. I don't know if I was getting ahead of myself, but I was annoyed That's what I threatened to do. Mark Martinez seemed to think that was at least an idea worth considering.
Well, misery may love company, who knows? But that actually, it does give us something for the to-do list. Next time there's a town meeting in Concord, we may want to have propose a measure to refile the bill and get it done again. So thanks to everyone. All the organizations on this call were big supporters of this measure, and we appreciate all the work that went into it, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the $5 to $6 billion housing bond bill, there's some cash that can find its way to Concord to make up the difference of not having a transfer fee. So we'll keep our eyes on that. All right, next topic is on the subject of funding for the trust, is a grant agreement for the fiscal 2025 community preservation funds that were approved by our town meeting in April. And there is a form of the grant agreement that has been provided by the CPC. I believe it has been reviewed by a town council. It contained the provisions that I mentioned at our last meeting, one of which was that there's language that allows up to 10% of our grant funds to be spent for administration. As we also discussed last time, there's no requirement that we do so. And if there's nothing to spend it on, then that qualifies as administration, then we spend it on housing. So by agreeing to that term in the grant agreement, it does not commit us to spending those funds on administration if there is not a specific proposal that is out there to fund. The second one was more of a procedural, that in addition to the reporting requirements that we've already had to fill out as all CPC recipients do, their project status report form on a periodic basis, that there's also a provision that the Community Preservation Coalition had recommended for reporting, for trusts to report to their community preservation committees. So we're, I've filled out those forms. It's not going to be a heavy lift for us to do that, and so I think it's fine for us to agree with that. So we don't get the cash until we sign the agreement. So yes, Linda.
Well, that's where I was going to go next. Have we actually seen what that agreement looks like at this point, the final form?
Yes, we had, and I believe I sent it out on Friday to all members, along with what else did I send out on Friday? A draft presentation to the select board for July 22nd. The minutes had gone out previously, and I'd have, in looking at it, it reads virtually identical to how our grant agreement read last year, except for these two provisions that were added in.
Yeah, thank you.
So I wonder if there might be a motion to authorize the chair to execute a grant agreement with the town of Concord and the Community Preservation Committee for $500,000 in fiscal 25 CPA funds for the trust for affordable community housing purposes pursuant to Article 40 of the April 29th, 2024 annual town meeting.
So move.
So moved by Linda, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. And is there further discussion on that? Okay, so let's take a roll call vote on that motion. Mike,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Carrie, and Keith, aye. So that passes unanimously. Thanks very much. Next is housing production plan priority project updates. And we have a couple of updates from the Concord Housing Development Corporation regarding Assabet River Bluff and the surplus state property at 91B Main Street. And so let me call on CHDC Chair Lee Smith to get us started on this agenda item. And thanks for being with us, Lee.
Thanks for having us. So the CHDC at a meeting last week voted to award the Assabet River Bluffs project to Habitat for Humanity. They're going to be building 3 new single-family homes. One will be 1,600 square feet roughly, the second about 1,700, and the third about 1,800 square feet. The third being 4 bedrooms, the other 2 being 3 bedrooms. We're going to get started on a land development agreement, and also the task of putting the entire parcel into a condominium that will enable us to carve out the existing 2-family or duplex that's there now, and then so there'll be 5 units total. And I guess in connection with that, I'll just mention it, although I don't think it's maybe on this agenda item per se. We'll be requesting from the trust a total of $1 million as the town/CHDC's subsidy. That is what Habitat for Humanity requested to make the project work financially. Happy to take any questions. You're on mute.
Questions from trust members? Sounds great to me, Lee.
Yeah, we're really excited.
Yeah, we are in a position to take an initial vote. We do have housing production plan updates on our agenda tonight, and including Assabet River Bluff, so we can take a vote. I had circulated a draft motion which would follow our procedures and invite the CHDC to submit a grant application to us, and then under those procedures we could take action on that completed grant application at a future meeting.
Good.
Yes, Linda.
Lee, thanks again. I was at that meeting where you discussed the details. Just remind me, in terms of timing, I know you said you're going to move into next to the working on the land agreement, and there's a lot of things steps that have to happen after that. What do you are you projecting a build date at this point? And
Best case scenario, land clearing and outside chance of foundations before winter hits full on, but the bulk of it will begin beginning of next construction season. It's really weather dependent. If we have a mild winter, it's possible they could start sooner, but we are encouraging them to start as soon as they can. But again, it's really weather dependent.
thank you.
I want to add also that this will be part of what they call a community build, meaning they have volunteers on certain days helping build the homes. And there's also going to be a significant participation from students at Minuteman Tech. So I'm really excited about involving them as well.
Very good, thank you. Carrie.
So I think I heard Lee say $1 million for the 3 units, and
Correct.
did we have $600,000 tentatively allocated for this project
In which bucket?
from the trust?
I think you had 1.2.
Yeah, we had, my recollection was 1.5. I will say, we've scrupulously tried not to identify what the dollar amount is, but in our discussions, it's been, we're aware that the CHDC has been requesting, or it indicated its intent to request up to $1.5 million for to complete this project. As we indicated in the report we submitted to the select board, we have, once we sign the agreement with the CPC, the trust will have a total of $2.5 million uncommitted funds, so that if CHDC is requiring $1 million to complete this project, that would leave us with $1.5 million for anything else that we might want to do. And it also say, just doing the quick total, this would, from what I can see, this would bring the total cost for Assabet River Bluff to date to $2.5 million. It was $1 million to acquire the property from several sources, including the trust. There was another $500,000 from the CPC that went, so that's 1.5, and then add another 1 million, that's 2.5 for 5 units, round numbers, $500,000 per unit for affordable units, which we know are more expensive than affordable ownership units. We know are more expensive than rentals.
I should have asked, how does the $1 million track with what we thought? Then I see that the 600,000 is related to the land purchase. I was trying to pull that up as mine. So thank you.
All right, very good, thank you. Further questions? Well, let me ask, what kind of time frame do you think you would be in your dealing with a developer? What do you have a time frame of, by when would you want to have the funds committed, these funds committed?
I don't think, well, that's a good question. I was going to say, I don't think we'll need them till closing, but that might not be accurate. But we've got probably at least a few months until we need them. I don't have a good answer for you today, but not tomorrow.
Okay, and I know that even when we promptly schedule a follow-up meeting to vote on the completed application, we nevertheless, you'll need to take the time to complete the application. I would like that application reviewed by town staff pursuant to our funding guidelines, just so that we set up a procedure that said that all of our housing roundtable partners would get to review it, and others, and we want to do that. I'm hoping I'm beginning to think of it as our summer schedule, because we're having difficulty finding times when we can all get together. But if we were to meet we can try to meet again in 2 weeks. There's two people who aren't here that I'll need to find what their schedules are. But if there is we'll talk at the end about when our next meeting is. But we'll do that, just as schedule that meeting just as soon as we can, but at a time by when you would have been able to submit an application to us in time to have it be reviewed by others. So, Liz.
2 weeks might be ambitious.
Yeah, I was going to say, relative to the land development agreement, If the trust is going to go with a mortgage and note for the $1 million, I think it would be helpful to understand the terms of that mortgage in conjunction with the land development agreement that the CHDC would be negotiating, just to make sure there's no disconnect between the terms and the payment and the restrictions and the timing of all of those conditions.
And
Very
we're gonna
good.
also gonna have to work out with Habitat. They'll have to take the property, ownership of the property subject to that mortgage, which they probably don't know about yet.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate it being in conflict with any of their plans, but it's just another hurdle to leap
Okay.
over.
Well, I'm sure we're open for discussion about what's the best way forward now that we know who all the actors are and what the budget is, and can, you know, we had to spend some quality time talking between the two boards and the town about what steps we can follow.
Sounds good.
Happy to do that.
I think the CHDC is going to request to use town council to assist with this transaction. And I think that the trust also does, so that maybe it's the same legal counsel that would simplify and probably could meet together with council and kind of work out some of these details, so it's easier to be all on the same page.
Very good. Thanks. Thanks for bringing it this far. I know it was a long journey, and there's still far to go, but looks like it's. I was very pleased to see that the CHDC had brought on board Dillis and Roy to advise you on development matters and as you undertake these projects. So that's great to see, and we all appreciate the work that Habitat for Humanity has done in Concord and is doing everywhere, and so that's going to make this very special project even more special, I think.
Agreed, and obviously CHDC is very excited to really get to this point. And another thing that's exciting about the project is they had initially proposed substantially smaller units based on their existing library of architectural plans, and with our request for larger homes, they're going to convert that into basically models for future homes on other sites. So that's I'd call that a win-win.
Well, that's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Any other comments or questions before I ask for a motion? Liz?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I think that you meant now communities, not Dillis and Roy. Dillis and Roy, the CHDC has hired for specific sites to do engineering, but the CHDC has also hired now communities in Dan Gainsborough to advise
Thank
them.
you.
For
Thanks so much.
I think that's what you meant for asking.
Okay, yes, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was referring to the group that's involved in the next motion. So
Dillis and Roy did do our plans to get us through the PRD permit. So
right. Okay.
we've hired both.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks for the correction.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would the motion that I would propose is that the trust vote pursuant to the trust funding guidelines to invite the Concord Housing Development Corporation as a priority project sponsor to complete and submit to the trust an application for trust funding for development of 3 new affordable units at Assabet River Bluff pursuant to Housing Production Plan Strategy number 1. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mike.
With
Is there
pleasure. Very exciting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Linda. Further discussion? All right, so on that motion, we'll do a roll call. Mike,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Carrie, and Keith, aye. So that passes unanimously. Thank you very much to all. There's also an update from CHDC on 91B Main Street. Would you like to talk to us about that?
Sure. So I think the town has taken the lead on this property going back a few years. It's owned by MassDOT. And I think it was kind of leftover parcel from when Route 2 over there was created. It's basically at the intersection of Main Street, Route 62 and Route 2. There's been discussions that I have not really been a part of, talking about what a possible disposition scenario might look like from MassDOT to the town, and some question about whether they would require full fair market value for it or something less than that. And my understanding is if we can demonstrate what we would do with the property, particularly build a number of affordable housing units on it, they might consider conveying it for something less than full fair market value. So in connection with that, we have a proposal from Dillis and Roy to do a feasibility study, which is the total cost is roughly $2,000. They'll do wetlands flagging, maybe some preliminary site analysis and a concept plan showing what might be able to be built in terms of homes in whatever style or configuration location on that site. So that's kind of the next step to advance the project and discussions with MassDOT.
Very good. Liz, did you have anything more on this?
No, that's exactly it.
Okay.
It's a very reasonably priced engagement, and I think that it'll be very informative to see what's possible there. I think they're interested in the level of affordability between the homes proposed, and so that's also part of it. So what's possible, and then what would the economic feasibility look like as well, and that's always a tricky piece, as we know.
Right. Very good. And I know that Lee and Liz and I had met with Deputy Town Manager Megan Zamuto in recent weeks to talk about next steps for this project. And in response to, it sounded like some new direction from MassDOT of what the procedure might be for pursuing the property for less than a market value, that it was identified that doing this sort of feasibility study was necessary for us to be able to produce the level of information that MassDOT would need to see, to see what a proposal looks like that develops the property for affordable housing. So I was happy to see CHDC stepping up to pursue that, and this project, as well as the Assabet, have long been on our list of housing production plan priority projects. So hopefully we'll have support from the trust tonight for this initial funding that would help us pursue this project. Any questions or comments from trust members?
I just need
Linda.
Yeah, thank you. I just need to be reminded about the when you expect Dillis and Roy to complete this.
Like within 30 days.
As soon as CHCC gives the go,
Yeah, okay, great.
which is as soon as you say the money's available.
Very
Great.
good. Okay, so again, on our procedure that we would be voting tonight to invite the CHDC to submit a grant application to us. Sounds like that one might not take as long as the Assabet one, and you should let us know what timetable, what time frame, we would need to meet so that you can proceed, and we'll have to see how soon we can meet as well. It might, if it's in a couple of weeks, I think we'll know that after we checked with those members who are not here tonight. So I had circulated a proposed motion for this project as well. The main difference is that it appears right now on our list of priority projects as the town appears as the sponsor, and so the proposed motion would substitute CHDC as the for the town as the sponsor, and then authorize and then invite CHDC as the priority project sponsor to complete and submit an application for a feasibility study to acquire the 1.46 acre surplus state property at 91B Main Street for affordable housing. So I wonder if there's someone who would like to make that motion.
So moved.
So moved by Mike. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Linda.
We need to get more members. This is exhausting.
Or yeah. It's well, we have one vacancy. So if there's someone who would like to in order to reach our 7, so if anyone is aware of someone that you'd like to be recruited to fill the 7th position on the trust, let's have that discussion. All right, so on this motion, we'll take a roll call vote. Mike?
Aye.
Kerry? Linda?
aye.
And Keith, aye. So that passes unanimously 4-0. Thanks very much to CHDC to stepping up on this project as well. And we will endeavor to meet just as in a timely fashion to act on your completed applications.
Can I ask something?
Yes,
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
yes, please.
So the amount of this particular piece of the feasibility study, so the feasibility study will be a number of pieces, but this particular first part is $2,000. And so the CHDC would like to give the go-ahead to start that in advance of your voting and the paperwork, you know, and assume and hope that you would vote favorably and take the risk perhaps that if you didn't vote favorably, that they would perhaps fund the whole $2,000 themselves, and take that risk themselves. They might talk about that. I know that for CPC funds, the CPC would not allow that. They would check the dates and make sure that
Right.
you be able to contract prior to their votes. So I didn't know whether you had any thoughts about that, or, you know, just in the interest of moving the ball along. And it's really only $2,000. It's really a small little piece. So, because it might take a little while with the summer to prepare the grant, the funding request, and to have your
Right.
meeting to vote it and all that.
Right.
So put it the way, could we treat it as a request for a reimbursement?
Yeah, so it would be a reimbursement anyway. It's just a question of whether it'd be a reimbursement before the authorization. Whether you would accept that.
At risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wonder how, oh, there's the town manager, who I was just going to ask how she felt about it.
I think before I answer that, don't we have a small grant out to CHDC? Are you having trouble hearing me?
Yeah, you do have a feasibility. You set aside funds in the trust for feasibility monies, I think. And you know, but no, There's no general money or the small grant. Let me just say, there is a small grant piece, but that's small grant to homeowners as part of the small grant program that couldn't really be used for this purpose.
It's not a small pot of money for miscellaneous expenses.
No.
Okay,
But you do have a discretionary, I think it's discretionary feasibility pot of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but even on that, I don't think it's a good practice for us to give out any amount of money without seeing anything in writing.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, as far as I was prepared to go tonight is to invite the application, and then you'll submit the application. There's nothing that precludes you from submitting it tomorrow. Filling out the forms and submitting the funding application, and we'll see if we can get how soon we can get a quorum of the trust available. I don't want to speak out of turn, but the select board's meeting on July 22nd at 6 o'clock. That must mean I'm thinking that might mean some of that. It certainly, I think, means that Mary will be there. Carrie, will you be there that day?
yes, but we have an executive session at 5.
Yeah.
So we're pretty booked.
Yeah.
That day.
So I was going to say, if people are around for 5 minutes at some point, and we can get a quorum together, we can work on. I think that's something that we can work on. Your job will simply be to fill out the application in writing and get it to us.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry,
we'll do
you
this
going to
quickly.
this goes to the select board?
No,
Oh,
no, I'm just noting that two of the people on this trust go to select board meetings.
Oh, I see. I get you.
In
Thank
fact,
you.
many more than that do, but where those are, if they're present for a select board meeting, that may mean that they're available to take a quick meeting beyond that. I don't know.
Sure.
But we'll work on that. We'll work on the issue. You've got your two votes tonight, authorizing you to submit the applications, and we'll happily receive them both and be able to act on each one as it comes in. So thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Anything else to report on at CHDC? Thank you for your project updates, which I shared with the board on the small grant program and the buy down program. So thank you for those updates, Liz.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the CHGC would be submitting a request for additional funds for the small grant program. If you recall from last year, it was going to be an annual request, so that will come in at the same time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, small grants. And and just while everyone's here, we'll be discussing with the select board on July 22nd an update from the trust, and I think we had copied everyone on our report, and we're looking to schedule a housing roundtable in August. And so, Liz, I hope that you might be able to get some proposed dates in circulation, because we do want to be sure to have a roundtable meeting in August prior to the Community Preservation Committee's September deadline for its funding round, because I know we want to be sure that all of the housing groups can. It would be good to try to reach a consensus at the roundtable about what are we going after money for and how much. And so it'd be helpful to have a meeting date
I think, isn't there, there's a couple of weeks in September, from Labor Day to the deadline for the CPC. Do you have any thoughts about whether that would be okay to meet after Labor Day, but before the CPC?
No, it wouldn't. No, it's September 13th.
Yep, and
Yes.
Labor Day is the 2nd, right?
Yeah, that's, you know, I'm not gonna volunteer to write a grant application this year if I have to do it in 1 week. That's not a reasonable thing to ask of a volunteer.
Okay.
I'd like to know a month in advance. And there's no one else stepping up to submit our grant applications, so I can't work on a week. So August.
You might have
Please.
better luck for an August meeting if it's just remote. Given people.
Oh, yeah,
away.
yeah, remote is fine, yeah. Yeah, we're meeting, yeah, I'm remotely reporting from Concord today, so. But be happy to meet remotely for the August roundtable. All right, very good, thank you. And I did want to mention, since we're talking about housing production plan projects, I just wanted to congratulate the CHA Local Properties LLC, who was a recipient of a $400,000 grant for their property acquisition program. That Jennifer Polito reports that the deed for the restriction for the affordable unit on Forest Ridge Road has been recorded now in the registry. It happened on July 11th. So that unit is going to be the next one that we will get to count on our subsidized housing inventory. So look forward to that. And it will bring us, it'll be number 919 and bring us to 12.81%. For those of you keeping score at home. So congratulations. Next is preparing for upcoming meetings. The first one to talk about is the select board meeting on July 22nd. In response to our submitting and our following the last trust meeting, we submitted our fiscal 2024 year-end report. Select Board Chair Mary Hartman invited the trust to come and give an update to the full select board, not just on what we've been up to, but the prognosis for the future. Some questions that Mary had are things like just to be reminded of where the subsidized housing inventory was before and after Novo and the thorough residences. We've got information on that. How much of the $2.5 million in the trust fund balance was anticipated to be allocated to Assabet River Bluff? So that the answer is 1 million. Will spending priorities change considering the failure of the transfer fee legislation? That's an interesting question. I think that the spending priorities might change, not as a result of the failure of the transfer fee per se. I think that will change, you know, how we try to pursue funding, but we'd already had discussions about wanting to focus on targets other than adding units at 80% of area median income. We were talking about 150% at talking about low income housing, 60%, and so I think those might be spending priorities that change without the transfer fee. I'd welcome any other, and the last question was what applications are anticipated for the upcoming Community Preservation Committee funding round? And apart from, I'm hoping the trust will want to apply for funds, maybe an additional $500,000, if not more. But if there are other projects that, if there are other housing entities that are looking to submit funding requests, that would be good to know as well. Does CHDC, since you're here, do you have any, or the Housing Authority, do you have any thoughts on what funding applications you might want to put into the Community Preservation Committee for this upcoming round? Has that been a discussion topic yet?
Keith, Stephanie,
I
just want to mention that we haven't had that specific conversation. We've actually explicitly said, as it relates to CHA's development strategies, buying new homes in particular, we really need to talk to our finance folks, from the LLC perspective to see what it is would be feasible for us, and then decide what our next steps will be. I also think I was going to make a mention before about the status update on Forest Ridge, and make sure that we also note in this recording, if possible, which HPP goal that tracks to. I'm not sure. I know we did that. We've been sort of doing that, but I just want to make sure that we know and, get credit for the fact that the Forest Ridge unit also not only helps us with SHI, but it also helps us meet a goal in the HPP.
absolutely. Thank you. I'll have to look it up on my spreadsheet too.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I know it has a place. I just wasn't sure where.
Yeah. I will look it up right now. Lee, did you have any thoughts from CHDC?
I have thoughts. We haven't formally discussed it as a board, but I would say certainly money available for buy downs of existing units to convert them into affordable units. We've started to discuss maybe looking at Concord Green as potential area to look. Those units come on the market pretty regularly, and they're largely $600,000 or less, which is probably kind of the cheapest thing you can buy in town these days. So that seems like a good potential opportunity. That's just one example. But like I said, we haven't formally discussed it yet, but as much as possible.
Right. Yeah.
It goes quickly.
Is there a thought of how much money would be needed? I know you've had about $250,000 since 2021 for that purpose.
Commonwealth Avenue.
And now have a total of $500,000 since last November.
What's the maximum we could request?
Well, I guess I'm asking, you've already got $500,000 that hasn't been spent on a buy down. So,
but that would probably go in one transaction.
Right. So if the proposal is for, whether you're applying to the trust or to CPC for additional monies, I'm just wondering what's the critical mass that you need to be able to even to do any buy downs.
If we had $1 million sitting in an account ready to spend, that would be comfortable.
Yeah.
But just to your point about whether we would submit an application to CPC, do we agree that maybe the preferred procedure is for the trust to make all those applications, and then for the different housing entities to go through you for funding requests? Or
yeah, that works for me if that works for others. And I guess I just want to remind us all that we'd had discussions at our last meeting that in addition to whatever the normal amount of money is that the CPC might make available for housing, which I'm suspecting might be about let's say if they have under $2 million total for all four buckets, then maybe we'll get a quarter of that, say 500,000. That in addition, there's $240,000 on top of that, which the Housing Authority has turned back from the Giroux property because of those funds ended up not being needed. So I, for one, would like to see the housing groups be requesting at least $740,000 in housing collectively from the new CPA funds, plus the funds that have been turned back. And if
Keith,
all of that, yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask a quick question about that too. Would that then be dollars officially transferred to the trust? Is that what you're saying? Or
Well,
following the
I
process,
hadn't-
the dollars?
Yeah,
will
I
go-
hadn't gotten that far yet, but it's whatever whatever is the consensus of the groups. If for example, if everyone were comfortable with that procedure, that would allow us to continue to, be the place where the housing groups can come to us when they need funds quickly, because we'll have those funds available. Lee and then Ed.
Hey, just to refresh people's memories from last year, there were multiple applications submitted to CPC by multiple housing interests, and I think they found that difficult to manage. And then we met, discussed the path forward, and then ultimately decided, at least CHGC, to withdraw its application and then just have the trust submit a single application that would cover CHGC as well. So I think that approach is a good one, provided that the application makes reference to at least a certain portion of those funds being set aside for CHDC purposes. We can, narrow down exactly what that would be
Right.
for. But
Right. Yeah. Mike. Oh, I'm sorry, Ed and then Mike.
Yeah, last meeting for the trust, I indicated that I would talk to CPC on exactly how they have handled the return of the $240,000, as we had hoped to have it put in a housing reserve. And I got a written response, which I'll read, which basically says that it has to be returned to general funds. But that they would definitely, understand this was originally for housing, and would probably they would make an effort to make sure that it went for future housing. You want me to go ahead and read that, or is that just enough of a?
No, maybe if you could forward that to us and include Kerry on that. I mean, I'm what I'm hearing is it's the law that if you're going to move it into, it would take you need to move it into a reserve. That is, town meeting needs to move it into a community housing reserve. It doesn't go there automatically. But I think the practice has been that since would be to reuse funds in the same bucket where there were funds that were not available. But
Yeah, I'll go ahead and forward that
yeah,
response to you.
yeah,
So,
thanks.
I mean, it's not something that you have to decide right away, but
Right,
think-
that's
I
good.
think
That's good to know, and it'll give us something to focus on for the roundtable. Mike.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I would just want to follow on Lee. I think if we took this approach, with our coordinated effort through the housing production plan that is, sort of organized our thoughts around what we're trying to accomplish, and then having the trust being seen as the funding agent would make us much more powerful to the CPC. Funds are going to continue to get tight. So I think as much as we can do to focus our effort and show a united front would be to our financial advantage.
I agree. I think it
Thanks,
makes their
Mike.
job easier too.
Yeah, and it would, and if And it would give us, if we did have a united front from the housing groups to go after, say, the total of $740,000, to have that go to the trust, it would be to fund, I mean, the grant application I put together last year identified what were our priority projects, which we agree upon as, we reach a consensus on at a housing roundtable. Here are the various projects. So I'd say the key to do that would be to make sure that we have, let's have a fresh project from the CHDC for its buy down program, that, phase 2 or whatever, let's see that as or phase 3, let's see that as a project that we put on our funding, our funding plan. If there's something from the housing authority that to meet its objectives, let's see that project as well. We'd want to have, and certainly things that are already on the radar screen, development of Junction Village, whatever the local share needs to be for affordable housing in MCI Concord, as well as the surplus state property at 91 B Main Street. We're in no shortage of potential projects that would be on our radar screen. Stefan.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow on to what Stephanie said earlier about CHA local properties. We are certainly open to the idea of acquiring another unit. It's just that we're not ready to do that right now and don't expect to be ready to do that before the CPA application deadline. But if you wanted to list, a nebulous to be determined additional unit, that is where we're thinking of going eventually also.
Yeah, that's good. And that would put us, that would match with what, how we approached it in the last fiscal year, that you had the idea that the housing authority had the idea, wanted to acquire something. And then we gave them the money on the idea, and then you found the property and you spent the money. So, Carrie.
So for CHA, I understand you have an earmark in the governor's budget, I think, for, what was it, maybe $1 million for sewer for your Bedford Street property. I'm not sure. I think I heard that was moving along. At least you haven't been knocked out at this point, but I wonder, CPA, CPC project to help support that sewer initiative. I don't know if $1 million is the total cost, but could you match that with something for CPC to increase the number of units at that site?
That is a subsidiary objective. If we can do away with the septic field, we would love to build some more buildings there. The issue about the funding, I think, has to do with the existing units at that site are under a state subsidy program, which is separate and apart and cannot be commingled with the CHA Local Properties LLC, which is holding them in a separate entity. So I think whatever funding we get, if it makes it through the rest of the budget proposal, would be restricted to that site only. Whereas additional funding for an additional unit as an opportunity arises elsewhere in town would be a separate transaction. I'm not commenting on whether we would need more money from some other source to build more units there beyond the $1 million in the budget. I suspect if that's the way we could go, that some of that funding would come from the state as well under the bond bill, because it's adding to an existing state project. Makes sense?
Thanks.
I was just throwing something out there. If you had
Yeah.
project that you could identify.
Thank you.
Thanks. Since Carrie has the floor, maybe our monthly question of whether there might be the opportunity to apply for ARPA funding before the funds start go away.
There, no additional funding has been tied up or allocated since the last time you asked. There's growing interest in it, and no decisions have been made. So it's still a potential.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
I have to go, so,
Sure.
okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Liz. All right, so we will have a number of items that will be given a general update to the select board. It'll reflect the discussion that we've had here as questions arise. It's a public meeting, so love to have company from wherever else from our housing groups are able to be at the select board meeting on Monday night. I am planning on being back on Nantucket, so by then, so I'll be joining remotely for that meeting. All right. Oh, maybe a question to Carrie. Has the town received any further word about the status of our MBTA community zoning bylaw and review by the Attorney General or HLC?
Did receive something through. I'm sorry if you're having trouble hearing me. I'm yelling at my computer.
Okay.
So we did receive something. I know Liz. I'm sorry. I'm trying to open up what we received recently. There was some feedback. We have some additional GIS work to do. So it's moving along. It is still new, and we are providing additional information as recently requested.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much. Thank you. Any other questions from folks on the issue of our preparing for the meeting with the select board on Monday night?
Can I just say, Keith, I just want to let you know I need to jump off the call too.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for including us. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Will our trust members be able to attend the select board meeting at Monday night? I'll be there remotely. All right, great. Thank you. Okay, next item is public comment. Yes, Carlin Reed.
Hi, Carlin Reed, member of the Finance Committee, but speaking on my own behalf, maybe I missed it, but I was wondering, did you get an idea of how much funds are left in the ARPA account that have not been dedicated for the remainder of this year?
Question for Carrie.
Yeah, so there's about $2.6 million left.
That's a lot more than I expected. Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Other public comment? All right, well, thank you all for being with us. In scheduling our next meeting, I'm almost afraid to ask if we were to, let's do the if we were to meet a month from now to be able to act on the Assabet application, is there a date that works for folks here? For example, is Tuesday, August 27th, a date that's available?
Yes, for me.
Yes, for me.
Yes.
Yes for
Yeah,
Carrie,
yeah.
and yes for Linda. So, why don't we say Tuesday, August 27th as our next scheduled meeting, and if we need to call one on shorter notice, to have a quick meeting to approve the $2,000 grant application, we'll deal with that when it happens, and see when we're able to get folks together, sooner than a month from now. Okay, thank you. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Ed's got his hand up.
Oh,
Can I-
yes, Ed, yes, Ed. you
Yeah,
have
I
your-
meant to mention one other thing at the the recent CHA meeting. Mary Harpen was there, and I was giving a short report on my attending the DEI commission's meetings. And she mentioned that the select board was definitely interested in housing as part of the DEI's agenda. So I hope that we will invite the DEI people to the roundtable in August.
Very good. Thank you for that. I know that the select board's goals pertaining to housing will be one of the things that we'll be talking about with the select board on Monday night, and also at the housing roundtable. And thanks for that, reminding us to include the DEI commission. And if there are any other groups that we think we need to have on board, maybe to touch bases with as other the MCI, other groups that could potentially have land for housing, such as the MCI Concord Advisory Board of the 2229 Main Street. Maybe there are others we could invite as well. All right, so is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Motion by Mike. Second by Linda. And on that motion, we'll do a roll call. Mike? Linda?
Hi.
Carrie?
Aye.
And Keith, aye. So we are adjourned at 6:13 p.m.